Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. Fight that wasn't on my bingo card. Apparently, Nina Meinke is going to be fighting Daniela Bermudez once again, this time in defense of the blue belt, in defense of the IBF featherweight title, May 10th in Germany. Neither fighter has seen action since their initial meeting in September of last year. I'm not sure why they're running it back. Did the IBF order this fight? Did they order a rematch? Because there are better options out there for Nina Meinke than fighting Daniela again. Nina Meinke, who sports a professional record of 19 wins with 3 losses, no draws, 4 knockouts, having been knocked out once. To the more experienced Daniela Bermudez, who sports a professional record of 32 wins with 5 losses, 3 draws, 12 knockouts, having been knocked out once in 40 professional bouts. A former 3-division champion, Daniela is definitely the more experienced fighter of the two, and in fact, the more decorated fighter of the two, but what she isn't is a natural featherweight. Daniela Bermudez has fought as low as light flyweight and as high as featherweight, but she doesn't land with the same authority at featherweight. Her punch just doesn't have as much mustard on it. Thus, opposite the ring, a game opponent like a Nina Meinke, who's durable in her own right. Nina Meinke has fought as high as 135 pounds and as low as 126. You see how it breaks down? Nina is more the boxer, whereas Daniela is more the puncher, more specifically, the pressure fighter, the mauler, the brawler, the come-forward, aggressive slugger. That's who Daniela Bermudez is, but not landing with the same authority at featherweight as she does at the lower weights. That makes her a very simple fighter at 126 pounds. Nina Meinke, outmaneuvering and out-hustling Daniela Bermudez, was able to win a points decision. I do think she can do it again in Germany, where she will have home field advantage, and she's the reigning champion now. So all the consideration is going to go to Nina. She's more the boxer, the mover, the thinker, whereas Daniela, she's a pressure fighter. And I say it all the time. Pressure fighters don't change much, if at all, from one fight to the next. They go about fighting a fight the exact same way, irrespective of the opponent and what the circumstances are. So the same Daniela Bermudez that Nina saw last year is the same one she's going to see this year. This one. And so I think that Nina should be able to beat Daniela for a second time to retain the blue belt, the IBF title. Now, all the real money for Nina is outside of her native Germany in those unification matches with the winner of Nicholson versus Brown. Whoever ends up with the WBA title after Amanda Serrano drops it, and the WBO title after she drops that one. The real money, the real challenges for Nina as a defending champion, a reigning champion, are outside of her native Germany. And I expect that if she keeps the blue belt in May, it won't be long before Karis Artingstall. Karis called her out after her fight with Raven Chapman, what was it, 2 weeks ago? The United Kingdom's own standout amateur, Olympian Karis Artingstall, who not but 2 weeks ago was in there with Raven Chapman, beat her on points and looked good doing it. She mentioned a fight with Nina. For Karis, that makes a lot of sense. If Nina keeps the blue belt in May, I anticipate Ben Shalom is gonna have to pay to play. You want Nina to voluntarily defend her belt against Karis, it's going to cost you. So it is. A Meinke versus Bermudez rematch really wasn't on my bingo card. I saw the poster and it threw me for a loop. I don't know why they're running it back, but they are. And I think Nina Meinke has enough that she can win the second fight. She can win the rematch in similar fashion to how she won the first one.
I know for the longest time it was talked about you fighting Errol Spence. Now you have this opponent, but what happened with the Errol Spence fight?
Lots of dates changed, and there was no contract the whole time. The only time I saw him was when you guys saw him in the ring when he came up after my fight. He showed me his betting ticket. He won, I think, $40,000 betting on me, and he was happy. But he called me out, but nothing became of it. It's just literally that, just saying I want to fight you. Of course, I said I wanted to fight him too, but that's it. That's all.
Wow. So there was never any follow up, ever any sort of date, sort of venue, nothing.
There was dates, but it's constantly changing. I can't speak on his behalf, but we were ready the whole time.
You were never told he just wasn't ready in fight shape?
We were told everything, but again, it's not up to me to say those things. If you want to hear that, you're probably gonna have to talk to him.
Yeah, he's a hard guy to get. He's out in the farm in Texas right now. Do you think he'll come back, Errol? Do you think that fight between you and him ever happens?
Who knows? I always invite it. I invite everybody in this division to fight me, but we'll see.
They lost about a year pursuing that fight with Errol Spence Jr. Just about a year. Sebastian Fundora fights Tim Kazoo in March of last year, immediately pursues an Errol Spence fight. Errol Spence, of all people, who was still coming off that devastating loss to Terrence Crawford, and he doesn't fight. Immediately after the Tim Tszyu fight, I remember Samson Lewkowicz, Sebastian's longtime handler, saying that they're not going to fight Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford has to wait because Errol Spence is next, just for the fight to not happen. And you can chalk it up to the business, the nature of the beast, that sometimes fights don't happen, but it shouldn't cost you a year, an entire year in the process, because time is the one thing you don't get back. Even money, depending on the circumstances, even with money, you can sometimes make your money back, but time, it's the one thing you don't get back, and Sebastian Fundora has lost a lot of it while being in possession of 2 of the 4 major titles at this weight, essentially holding them hostage, all a part of Samson Lukowicz's master plan to put Sebastian in there with Errol, for obvious reasons. I just look at the way his fighters' careers seem to go. Sebastian Fundora, David Benavidez, and I wonder to myself, has this guy ever devised a plan that actually worked? You can tell he thinks he's smart. You can tell he thinks he's slick and he's got it all figured out. Samson does. But your fighter just lost an entire year of his boxing career in his prime years, and now you've got him fighting Cordell Booker? What is that supposed to do? Well, it's a tune-up fight to make up for lost time. Well, he wouldn't have lost any goddamn time if you wouldn't have had him chasing around Errol Spence Jr. And why would you be chasing around Errol Spence Jr.? Because he got beaten half to death and now he's low-hanging fruit. The obvious answer, the obvious reason.
Now, was it frustrating that fight never materialized? A lot of people wanted to see it. Spence got in the ring after you fought Tszyu. What happened there? Why didn't that fight happen?
It's just the business side of boxing. We could say everything. We could curse each other out on social media. Not that we do. Not that I do, you know, but all that stuff can happen, all the extra drama. But when it comes to the fight, that contract needs to be signed, and those people need to step into the ring.
Right.
And if that doesn't happen, you're not going to get it. And it could be a little bit disappointing, but, that's boxing.
Yeah.
That happens in boxing. That's the business of boxing. People want to get paid. People want to get paid the right things. That's what happens. No, what happens is your promoter ends up wasting a lot of his fighters' time in an effort to get at a bigger bag that never seems to pan out. It never seems to work. I remember when both Caleb Plant and David Benavidez were unbeaten champions reigning parallel to each other, and an opportunity was there to make the unification match between them. Caleb Plant was pushing for the fight on his social media. He was calling David Benavidez out, and this is what Samson Lewkowicz had to say about it.
Now, Caleb Plant just posted on his social medias that you said that David Benavidez versus Caleb Plant needs to take more time. Why?
Look, this business is for 2 reasons. Make money and more money. I'm pretty sure they planned he want more money as well as Benavidez. So now really nobody knows much about the 2 great fighters, like the youngest super middleweight of David Benavidez. People know, but not the regular in the street. You go to any place, for Caleb Plant, or David Benavidez, you need another 2 fights, 2 good fights, and then you can go to be a pay-per-view.
The obvious answer fans would say but we want the best fighting the best. We're tired of paying for C versus D. We want A versus A.
Well, you have 2 A's, no
That's
doubt.
what I mean. 2 A's and David Benavidez and Caleb Plant.
To see 2 A fighters, you need to pay. You cannot be for free.
It would be 5 years from that video before the two fighters finally faced each other, except by the time they did, Caleb didn't have a belt anymore, and neither did David. David lost his belt on the scales, and Caleb lost his belt to Canelo.
And the bag?
The fight didn't sell anything. I mean, for a fight that takes 5 years to put together, you would expect something in the neighborhood of 400,000, maybe 5, maybe even 6.
Yeah, for a fight that takes 5 years to make, I would.
Where this fight didn't even come close, anywhere near those numbers. For a fight that takes 5 years to make, it was 5 years too many.
Time you fought this guy, Canelo already knocked him out.
You lost your belt, and so did he, so that you could charge $80 for people to see it.
Dumbass.
Dumb is right. In the pursuit of a bigger bag, Samson Lewkowicz always seems to have all of these bright ideas, none of which ever seem to pan out. So when you look over at Sebastian, who's fighting Cordell Booker tomorrow, you wasted a year of this kid's time pursuing a Spence fight, knowing what Spence was coming from.
He's coming off a loss. He's done absolutely nothing as a junior middleweight. He's going through what he's going through with Derek James, who he's not with anymore, by the way, and he hasn't hired a replacement.
I mean, that's why he wanted him, because he knows that Errol is in a vulnerable state, and he's a low-hanging fruit. But chasing that low-hanging fruit, you costed your boy a lot of time that he's now trying to make up for with a nobody. And he better win tomorrow. He better beat Cordell Booker, because if you lose your 2 belts to that guy...
Bye.
And I don't even mind Sebastian Fundora, but Samson...
He's an idiot.
May have an eye for talent, and he may have been in the sport for a very long time, but none of these plans that he seems to cook up ever pan out. None of them.
Not a one.
What if Bivol counters with, I will fight Benavidez. I'll agree to that before April 8th, but it has to be on Turkey's show. It has to be in Saudi. I'm the champion.
No, because the best, I can give you credit to Turkish Al Sheikh. He do excellent fights, but he sold not too many at $26. He didn't sold when PBC never have 45,000 or 50,000, under 50,000 pay-per-view. Always is over 100.
What are you worried about pay-per-view numbers for if Turkey's gonna pay your guy an astronomical amount of money?
You're telling me that Turkey's money is good enough for Fury, good enough for Usyk, good enough for Inouye, good enough for Canelo?
But it ain't good enough for your fighter.
Why? Does he make more money than they do?
So to show that doesn't mean in Saudi that it have any attention for the timing, for many things, that it mean nothing.
You know, if I didn't know better, I'd say that Samson Lewkowicz and Team Benavidez are trying to A-side Dimitri Bivol.
Those sound an awful lot like demands, stipulations that you are making for a fight, as if you're in any position to make them, to Dimitri Bivol?
Dimitri Bivol, who's reigned as a champion for 7 years throughout 11 successful title defenses.
Dimitri Bivol, who beat Canelo Alvarez.
The Canelo Alvarez you're always moaning about. The Canelo Alvarez you're chasing around. He beat him already. He beat Zerto Ramirez, too. He just beat Artur Beterbiev. He's undisputed champion, having fought in bigger fights, on bigger stages, for more money than you have. And you think you can dictate terms to him?
Why? Because you beat David Morrell?
Because you beat Caleb Plant? Canelo beat Caleb Plant, and Dimitri beat Canelo.
I like the inquisitive nature of Sean Zattel's line of questioning. A part of me feels that he doesn't come off as standoffish with his line of questioning because he's trying to get at the answers he needs. And in order to do that, he's got to play ball. He's got to butter the guy up. I would like to think that Sean Zattel wanted the world to know.
Team Benavidez are trying to dictate terms to Dimitri Bivol. With what leverage?
Is this another one of Samson Lukowicz's master plans that never pan out, that don't result in anything? Because by doing this, you're not going to get the Dimitri Bivol fight.
Fueling my suspicions that you don't really want it, because how the hell do you guys sound trying to dictate terms to him. Sick of the gaslighting and this idea that David Benavidez is doing so well in America, generating so much, that he can now attempt to A-side Dimitri Bivol.
Well, it's gotta be in America, and it's gotta be in Vegas, and it has to be a PBC show.
You must be joking. What David Benavidez is one of the last flagship fighters the PBC has left. So the amount of protection that he's going to get...
Rest assured, it is protection.
It's not a fight that they're after, it's a vacant title. I saw that David Benavidez made a guest appearance on Jake Paul's podcast, and where initially I thought that David Benavidez, given the PBC's current state of affairs, might go to Golden Boy, it dawned on me that maybe he'll go to Most Valuable Promotions. He's got an axe to grind with Canelo, so does Jake Paul.
That's what they were talking about on his podcast.
I don't underestimate Jake Paul and Nikisa Badarian's Most Valuable Promotions, especially not now that they're in bed with Netflix. They just signed Alicia Baumgartner, and in their official press release, they stated they mean to sign even more fighters. And it just dawned on me that David Benavidez could be one of those fighters, but it's not complete if he's not a champion, if he doesn't have a world title of his own to take over there.
It's a possibility. Going to Golden Boy was initially what I thought he might do in pursuit of a Zurdo Ramirez fight, and he still might. But another possibility is he might go to Netflix.
He might go to MVP. Alicia Baumgartner just did. Rumor has it Edgar Berlanga is about to, and maybe David joins him.
I could see that.
Because even if you're lucky enough to get an email title out of this, become an email champion, you go back to the PBC with that green and gold title, who are you gonna fight? There are no light heavyweights over there, and Amazon isn't spending any money on those PBC shows. They only did 5 last year. How many do you think they're gonna do this one?
Get yourself an email title, then what? All the real money in the light heavyweight division is split between Saudi Arabia and Great Britain. The PBC doesn't have an overabundance of bodies for you to fight at 175.
And if the fighters at light heavyweight have to choose between fighting you in America on your terms or fighting in Saudi for big money, what do you think they're gonna do?
Get yourself a title, then what?
Now, theoretically speaking, if he were to go to Most Valuable Promotions and box on the Netflix platform moving forward, he'd have a lot more money behind him than he does right now.
Just a passing thought. Though I can't get over the nerve of these guys trying to dictate terms to Dimitri Bivol of all people.
But when what you have is tantamount to a used car salesman managing your career with all of his bright ideas that never seem to pan out, there's no telling how much nonsense they'll put out there, and it all makes you look bad.
People ain't buying into this stuff. There's a growing number of individuals that is sick and tired of this kind of rhetoric from any and every PBC fighter. The obstacles have been removed. The money is there and the legacy, all in Saudi, to where you don't even have to worry about pay-per-view buys, and still...
You're still sandbagging it. And to do what? To fight who in America? You screwed a pooch with Dimitri and you end up with a vacant title as a result. Who are you gonna defend it against? For what amount of money?
David Morrell rematch, anyone?
Would seem that boxing still has 1 or 2 crackerjack promoters doing their best impersonation of a shot caller.
I'm Samson Lewkowicz with an avalanche of bullshit.